Alright guys, we're back in the Audi again, and since I changed the temperature sensor for the coolant the other day, apparently the engine light's come back on. Now I've turned it off again and the gauge still doesn't seem to be reading correct. On a long journey, when you get up to speed on the motorway, I went up to Meadowall earlier on today and the temperature's still in a hovered above about 70. When you sit still, it will gradually build itself up to the proper temperature, about mid-90s, something like that. So I'm leaning towards it being the thermostat. Now I found out a little trick from someone on the internet that you can do if you press the recirculating and the upwards air buttons at the same time. That does that, and then if you crank the temperature up to 49 degrees C, yeah, and then press recirculating again, that's now displaying the coolant temperature somehow from the ECU. That's now being displayed on that control panel. So as you can see, that's reading 70 degrees C, and the gauge obviously halfway between 50 and 90, so that's also reading bang on 70 degrees. There we go, it's now creeping up 71. So that tells me that there's no problem with this, because apparently on these TTs some of these can fail. And obviously, because that matches that tells me there's nothing wrong with that. So obviously the only other thing left really to do is to check the sensor wiring, which I've already done when I replaced the sensor. That was all good. So it looks like we're going to have to do a new thermostat on it, which is not a big job. I've had a look on the internet. That's not too big a job to do, so we'll get one of those ordered in the week, and looks like we're going up to the garage on Tuesday night to do that. So it's not a big job. And then you just press, I think, to cancel that, recirculating, I think. Oh no, you press the two together. There we go, now we're back onto the climate temperature. I've got a new side light bulb for it, which I'll fit in a second before it gets too dark. And I've also got the air filter to put back on the EP3. That's actually looking pretty shit. That actually was a K&M once upon a day. Now I've been having a few problems with EP3 as well, which has been going on for a little while now, but I just kept ignoring it because it kept going away before I had a chance to have a look at it. And that's when it gets warm and you go to return the car to idle, it seems the revs seem to drop to about 300-400 RPM sometimes, and then that then sends the car a little bit wappy and the radio goes off and the lights flicker, and it has cut out a couple of times. So I tried last night to take the throttle body, I took all the sensors off, disconnected the throttle body, and then I tried to get off the idle control valve. And obviously with it being quite old and done quite a few miles now, the bolts, obviously these little shitty posi head screws were all seized on. So although I managed to crack one off, but the second one just started to round, so I don't know what I'm going to do with that yet. I've cleaned the air filter while I had it all in bits anyway, so I'll put that back on, run it up and see what happens. But it looks like I'm going to have to buy a new throttle body, so that could be a job for another day, but for now we'll stick it back on and see what happens anyway. So right, let's get this side light changed and let's put the Civic back together, and hopefully it'll all be good. Right, getting to the side light on these is actually really is a piece of cake to get to. So you just got to pull that little metal clip off. This headlight cover slides out, and then the side light bulb's actually down there in with the main beam. So I'll get it out, just get it swapped. There we go. So now we've got two working side lights. So that's that job jobbed. Again, obviously the old bulb, wherever it's gone, yeah, the filament had gone in that. You won't be able to see that on the camera, I don't think, but that was nice. Okay then, so when I had this in pieces last night, took off TPS down there, a couple of the other little sensors, and the actual one that I wanted idle control was actually right at the very bottom there. So I need to plug the air temp back into there. So yeah, very similar to those there. And obviously over time they've all got rusted and mucked up and stuff from road dirt and everything, and obviously seized and knackered. So what I'm probably going to have to do, like I say, is get another throttle body. I might try the one off of the DC2 and see if it gets rid of this low idle problem and see what happens. Anyway, I'll put this back together and then we'll jump in the car. I'll catch it with you in there and then we'll fire it up and see what happens. Okay, so that's the AM intake back on. So that's all good. Everything's all plugged in as it were. So let's close the bonnet, head into the car, start him up and see what happens. Although I imagine because it's cold, it will be absolutely fine. Really needs a wash from all the fiberglass dust I was cutting at work yesterday, got all on the windscreen. So now we've got an engine light that we didn't have before. I wonder what that's related to.
And then from 9 o'clock we replay Liam.
Okay, I'm not sure how well you'll be able to see me in the dark, but it might be a little bit better. That's a little bit irrelevant. Right, after fiddling around on the engine bay, I disconnected all the sensors that I'd taken off and had a look at them, just inspect them, just to make sure I hadn't missed anything, and plugged everything back in, and all seemed well. The engine light was still on. Now my little reader, which I've got, just hold on to a second. Now my little Bluetooth reader that I use, that, for some reason, every time I plug it into this car, doesn't seem to work. There's a little red light that flashes in, say it's connected to the car, but then there's no green light, say it's actually giving off a signal or being given any power from the OBD, so that I can then connect to my phone to actually get it to work. So I was just struggling, and I just had a minute come back to it, and then mysteriously the engine light's gone off by itself. So presumably something perhaps got a little bit damp or something overnight from me leaving the car without half the intake or something connected, and obviously now everything's fine, which is all good. So yeah, bit strange that one, but I'll keep an eye on it and hopefully the light doesn't come back on.